Right? Hello and welcome to this episode of the Social CMO Show. Today we are going to talk about growth hacking with Facebook ads. And my guest today is the CEO of Blitz Metrics. Please welcome Dennis Yu. Hey Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hey, happy Friday afternoon, everybody.
Happy Friday afternoon. So Dennis, since we are going to talk about growth hacking, let's start by you defining what growth hacking means to you.
Growth hacking, how do you take one unit of effort and multiply it so that it looks like you have 100? And traditional marketing, you're not going to get this kind of efficiency or multiple because either the content's not compelling enough to create a multiple on sharing, the targeting isn't good enough, so that you have a lot of waste with traditional marketing. But if you have the right people and you have the right content, then you're going to have magic. And so when people think of hacking, they think of like cheating. They think that there's some amazing engineering where, we broke into the system and stole all the money. But really growth hacking is just an extension of very smart database marketing. So what are things that we can do that are not really technical in nature? Some people think that growth hacking is tied to product because you create a product feature or based on doing data analysis, you unlock this one thing. And maybe that's true in terms of optimization, but if you take away all the nonsense, then growth hacking is very simply identifying the best customers, taking the words that they say and amplifying that out so that you can get more customers. So it's actually the bottom of the funnel, right? Instead of traditional marketing, top of the funnel, audience engagement, conversion down, you're taking the bottom of the funnel. So if you think of an hourglass, the real power of social and growth hacking is not the top of the funnel, but it's actually from the bottom down in this hourglass shape. Because if, let's say that we want to sell packages of Facebook advertising, let's pretend we're an agency, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's something that we could say about ourselves. I could say, hey, we're really good at Facebook ads, but wouldn't it be so much better if Facebook said, hey, you should use these guys. These are the 7 ways on how you do custom audiences. Or this is the step-by-step checklist on how you can sell more tickets with Ticketmaster if you have an event, right?
Yeah.
And so growth hacking, because we say that the power, the trust, the credibility is stronger in the hands of the people who have the highest authority, then it doesn't even matter who we are, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that LinkedIn is talking about the things that we do and saying, yeah, this is how you should do LinkedIn marketing coming from LinkedIn, it's the ultimate authority. How do you ultimately appear to put words in other people's mouths?
Yeah.
Right? And if you can do that, and then you do the $1 a day strategy, right? Because growth hacking is about very small dosages. So when we get an article in the New York Times, then how do we spend $1 a day to be able to get people who work at the Wall Street Journal, to get our clients, to get remarketing audiences, to get other journalists at Forbes or whatever to write about us, right? So that's the idea of growth hacking. It's very small dosage for a very large impact.
Sounds cool. Okay, so Facebook recently changed a lot in their Power Editor. I'm still not very happy with what they've done. I mean, it's a step up from where they were, but certainly I think it's a long way to go. They have a long way to go. What are some of the features in your wish list? Too bright, right? The video is too bright.
Maybe the room is too brighter. I don't know.
Yeah. So what are some of the features in your wish list for the Power Editor?
Power Editor ultimately should be less about complexity and more about sophistication. So I can list 10 or 15 things that I would like to be able to do where there's an interesting feature where I want to be able to turn ads on and on based on a certain condition. But I think that will all be handled programmatically. So what I really want Power Editor to do, I don't care if it's in Power Editor or the Ads Manager or in the feed where I'm boosting.
Yeah.
I want to be able to merely have Facebook find all my content. I assign what my business goals are and what they're worth. And all of the targeting is automatically handled, right? So we talk about goals, content, and targeting. The three keys to your business strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I would like all 3 of those automated. So all I have to do is literally press a button and then never have to touch it. It's like using a Keurig machine. I want to press the button and it brews coffee for me. I think we're actually pretty close to that because the goals, I've said before, are automatically handled through objective-based buying on Facebook. There's 11 of them, right?
Yeah.
There's, which includes Call Me Now and Buy Now and other integration, cross-marketing with Instagram. You see that launched worldwide today in 30 countries, right?
Yeah.
So goals are already handled. The bidding's already handled, right? Targeting is already handled with custom audiences and the automatic integration of MailChimp. They don't quite have automatic integration with like Constant Contact and Infusionsoft and Marketo they sort of have, right? But the third piece is the content.
But you can bring in your MailChimp or whatever email list by importing the spreadsheet, right? So it lets you do that, but like in a twisted way.
But your question is, what would I like Power Editor to do?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that I don't want to do. I would like for Power Editor to automatically scan all my content, not just on Facebook, but anywhere, and figure out what content to deliver to what person at what time. True. And in the same way, I want Facebook to do my bidding for me. In the same way, I want Facebook to automatically create lookalike audiences so I don't have to figure out exactly who these audiences are, right? So they do it already for goals and targeting. They will do it for content with dynamic product ads. That's why this year is so different for Facebook and why it's going to make things easier for us. Yeah. It's more complex for us right now because in Power Editor, we're exposed to the guts on how to configure the product catalog. So for those listening here and you're doing dynamic product ads either directly or through the API or through a third-party ads tool, you have to configure a product catalog, and you configure the product catalog off of your role data feed, right? The feed. Yeah. So if you don't have that set up properly, then garbage in, garbage out. So I would like Facebook to automatically import these items, which is an extension of your SEO, an extension of schema.org, where I have everything categorized properly. Where if I have my content tree already organized, then that's no different than having my shopping cart product catalog organized, right?
True.
So Facebook's actually making strides to do this. We met with their e-commerce team, the product people, a couple months ago, and they laid out their vision for the next year or two, and they actually are going to do these things. So I think while a lot of people are trying to pretend that Power Editor is really complex, or that social media changes so fast, and there's so much data and it's so difficult, if anything, Facebook is absorbing that complexity and is making things actually simple for us. So I think what's actually hard is trying to effectively manage LinkedIn ads, right? Or Apple ads, because they don't automatically tune the bidding and the budgeting. They don't automatically figure out which message to show to what person when. They don't. OCPM, when you buy by objective, it not only does the bidding, but it also does the audience sub-segmentation, right?
Right. So what you talked about is whom the ad should be shown to, and that should be done automatically, programmatically, and that's all good. I think another pain point that should be targeted should also be around the creation of these ads, because right now that process, even though it allows multiple file uploads or whatever, like creative ads copy, but you still have to write the text and copy. And I would like if I give you a list of 10 headlines or 10 text copy and give you 12 images, then it should create permutation combination of all of these and tell me which ones make sense according to the headline and the image. Do they fit together? And I can quickly say yes, this is good, or not, this is not good. And I know there are some third-party tools that will let you do that to some extent, but it would be great feature to add to Power Editor. What do you think?
Maybe, but I think that's a waste of time. People who are used to search, I'll explain why.
Yeah.
So if you come at it from a search standpoint, you think about an ad group, right? And an ad group is a combination of keywords or target. Could be, display targets, whatever, some kind of target against a creative. And the creative, you could say, wow, I have like 10 different headlines and 10 different images and 10 different body copies and 10 different destination URLs, and multiply them out and I have millions of combinations, and therefore, how do I find the right combination? I would like Google or Facebook or some third-party tool, Marin Software, Kenshu, I would like them to figure out what combination of all these creative elements that comprise an ad is going to work in this particular targeting situation. That's what people say in search. But that will not work in social. Anyone who has that mindset coming into Facebook is going to fail. They're not going to have, because when you have Google search, and you've got Allison Herzog here. We should even put her on. She can talk more about this. She runs social strategy at Dell. Right? When you have when you have one or two keywords and you have intent that's constantly fresh. If you think about a keyword that's clearly at the bottom of the funnel that drives a sale, then you can experiment with it. But social, every piece of content you create is a shot on goal that's an opportunity to say hello. And thus it's triggered by a different situation. And if you create content that's strictly for advertising, people see through that. It's not social content. Imagine, Shilpi, if let's say that we were hanging out and we wanted to go to lunch somewhere, and I came to you and I said, hey, Shilpi, would you like to go to McDonald's? They have 20 McNuggets for $5. And then you give me an answer, and then I walk out of the room, and I come back in the room 3 seconds later, and I say, hey, let's go to the happy hour, McCormick and Smith's. What do you think? And then I walk out of the room, and then I walk back in again, and I say, hey, you know what? There's this new restaurant down the street. It's rated 4.5 on Yelp. Let's go there. And you look at me and say, why are you – do you have amnesia? Why do you keep asking the same thing over and over again? Right? You would never do that in real life, because in real life you only get one chance to make a good first impression. And with social, it's water in the stream that's flowing down. Every opportunity is another impression. You can't treat clicks like repeats where you keep having multiple chances. If you actually target down really well, then you don't actually have a lot of impressions. You don't have enough impressions and clicks such that you can run 1,000 different combinations.
True.
You have only one or two. Because the number of, we're talking about lots and lots of audiences.
Yeah.
And those audiences are triggered by when someone visited your page. They put it in an email. You know that with the new Conversion Pixel, you've got 27 different events that you can fire on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? You just have one pixel, but it can fire lots of different events. Well, now that there's so many different combinations of situations that are triggered by a custom audience, or they just got a new job, or all the different things that you can target by, you're getting more and more sophisticated with the targeting, so these audiences get smaller and smaller. Imagine you have something on Google where you have 50 impressions per month. Does it make sense to multiply? There's not enough data to be able to tell. And so I remember telling somebody, as a way to explain it, for those people who are 30 plus, there is a TV show called Name That Tune, right? And you play a song and someone say, I can name that tune in 6 notes. And someone else says, I can name that tune in 5 notes. And then they had to try to name that tune. Well, these people who believe in mass multiplication, which is basically brute force, they're saying, I can name that tune in 1 note. Impossible, right? I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna plug in.
I can't do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I call BS on anyone who pretends that they can. Greetings from London, everybody. I got into London just a few hours ago, and this morning I had breakfast in Oslo, Norway.
Oh wow!
All over Europe today.
How's the weather in London?
It's London-like, although it's gloomy.
Is it rainy?
It's London. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Now I got some power. Now I'm not gonna. I was at 4% battery.
Oh, glad you did it on time.
Yep.
All right. So we talked about the Facebook dynamic ads a while ago. They are also called the carousel ads. And like you mentioned, they're great for e-commerce vendors who have a product catalog and things like that, and they can upload their database and do it that way. What about, can Facebook product ads be leveraged for like service providers who don't have like tons of products to showcase? What are some of the use cases you have seen for non-e-commerce vendors? So
maybe about a year ago, Facebook had these ads, and they called them MPA, which are multi-product ads. And the reason why they changed the name from multi-product ads to carousel ads is that it wasn't just about e-commerce. It wasn't just about trying to optimize to a shopping cart with many SKUs where you have the third party. That's why FBX was there, right? Facebook created FBX so that third parties could allow for this logic of serving. If Shilpi likes this red shirt, she might like the blue shirt, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of custom logic. They called it carousel because it's not just products. It could be 5 different value propositions. It could be a story of 5 different pains in a sequence, like in a cartoon. Like, oh, they walk into the restaurant, they sit down, they order on the menu, they smile because they're happy, right? You can use the carousel as a way to have a sequence inside a single ad. Even though they're really like 10 different ads, you can have
It's
10
like
ads.
Storytelling, right? You can use it like a story.
Yeah, you could show 5 benefits. You could show pictures of 10 customers. You could show lots of different things, and that's why the overall performance is such that your click-through rate is 20 or 30% better because you have a chance to click on multiple things, and your conversion rate might be another 10% better. So the net effect is that you might have about 30% lift. And now that you could retarget into Instagram, it's going to be even better, right? And you're going to see video and dynamic product ads. You know, right now, dynamic product ads are only for remarketing.
Yes.
But Facebook told us by the end of the year that it's going to open up to lookalikes.
Okay.
And then it's going to open up to Instagram, which will further pollute the situation because anytime there's something new, marketers come in and they destroy it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the localization ads, like for local vendors. There are some product ads that Facebook has added for which are geo-targeted, and you can say call now. There are different call to actions like call now, get directions, or send a message that you can send to a local vendor. What would you suggest the call action should be for a particular, like how do you know which call to action should I be using? Like
depends on what part of the funnel you're in, right?
Sorry?
Depends on what part of the funnel you're in. So we said that the funnel, there's 3 main stages. There's audience, engagement, and conversion. Now, my favorite part is the click to call, right? To be able to call now. That is only available in the local awareness ads.
Yes.
I mean, yes, you can learn more. You have maps and directions. You have all these other items. But I think the most powerful thing is click to call because 75% of Facebook's traffic is on mobile. And if you are a retailer with a location, then, and you figure out what that radius is, then that's just like Google when they launched click to call, right? Where they have their call tracking that was already part of PPC and part of AdWords, and you pay $1 a click. Fantastic, right?
Yep.
The problem with that is that if you're a chain, if you have multiple locations, hey, Stephen Caggiano, please, I'm going to come follow you. If you have multiple locations, it's not going to work, right? So we asked on behalf of a number of folks that we work with where they have many locations, it's made for small mom and pop. In the same way that the buy now, that button is made for small mom and pops because you have the Shopify integration. They're not going to integrate with all the other shopping carts. At least that's what they said for the near future.
Sorry, I missed you on the last one. I was just saying, hey, welcome.
Yeah. So I think this is a good thing because Facebook has to build things that will work for everybody. So you asked about Power Editor, you asked about some of these different features.
So call now.
You have to release things that are going to work for everybody. That's really hard because there's certain folks here I can see that are very sophisticated, like Alison Herzog, right? There's things that you would make for her, Adele, that would confuse 99% of other people that are not as sophisticated, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you make something that is going to work for everybody? That's why there's so much opportunity for any of us to get specialized in a particular vertical and then build things on top of their API. So Facebook, you saw 2 weeks ago, they launched the Reference app, where it's an app they've already built using the Facebook API where you can get in for free without any special access, right? They opened that up maybe a year ago, right? And now you can set up all kinds of rules where maybe in your particular situation, you want to turn off any ads that have a CTR that falls below whatever. Or if the cost per lead goes above a certain amount, then just turn that ad off. Or if this certain thing is true, then if this condition is true, then what? Like for example, if the weather, if the temperature outside is more than 90 degrees in a particular city, then run an ad saying buy one get one free frappuccinos across the United States if we have locations in those areas. That's actually what we help Starbucks set up, right? Think about this. If this happens, then I want something else to happen. And the triggering condition can be based on anything, not just the Facebook ad. It can be based on, if so-and-so won the baseball game, which can be automated, right? Any kind of automated action to be able to gather data, to be able to, if the Golden State Warriors score more than 100 points, then everyone gets a free chalupa, right? You could actually automate that to have ads triggered. One of my friends, he sells leads to roofing contractors. So when there's a hailstorm, there's all the hail comes, and of course he knows he's able to monitor the weather. So he's got a script that goes out and pulls all the latest weather real time. And in certain zip codes where there's a lot of hail, he knows that there are going to be a lot of insurance claims the next day from people who, their roof is broken, they need to get it fixed. And so what he did was he automated that. He wrote a script to pull this information in. And those zip codes that are affected, he automatically turns ads on saying, hey, is your roof damaged by hail? Call this number. And then he uses his call tracking system to assign different phone numbers, drives them to landing pages that are dynamic. And then because he's not a roofing contractor, but actually a lead affiliate kind of reseller, then he pushes and sells those leads in his marketplace, right? So you see how you could actually go end to end by using Facebook's ad API. And if that's too difficult for you because you're afraid, it's not actually difficult, but if you, in your head, you believe that this is difficult, then you just have someone else code it up. Because the key is that you understand the gating logic of if this condition is true, then you say this, and therefore it leads to this kind of conversion. Facebook is the best platform in the world for triggering this kind of behavior because you can trigger an ad on Facebook or any activity on third-party data as long as you can bring it into a central place to be able to calculate if a certain condition is true. So where is the most complex logic, marketing logic that occurs in a business? I would say that it's in their marketing automation system. Usually, it's in their email channel because that's where the most if-then that's that kind of flow chart. Rules is okay. So if we see this collision with marketing automation, and triggered social ads occurring, then we really have deep personalization across email and social and web at the same time. But then if we believe that's the case, I would ask what % of businesses do you think, or what % of Facebook advertisers do you think are actually doing that, are actually integrating that?
Mostly all of them. Why wouldn't they take advantage of that?
Well, they could, but what % of advertisers actually know how to do this or actually could? Or
know how to do that.
Almost not.
Because even experts who claim they know about Facebook advertising, I doubt how much they know because there's just is so detailed and so much you need to know how to set up the tracking pixel, how to set up the conversion pixel.
That's all mechanical. Facebook's produced great documentation. We produce documentation on how to do that. I don't consider that anything that really deserves any kind of premium knowledge except for business owners that you can fool because you can pretend to have expertise that is not as difficult as other people make it out to be. I would argue that anybody who claims that they're a social media strategist, and I know some of the folks here, I can see they're on the blab, they know I've said this before, I will call them out as being fakes. I don't believe there's such thing as social media strategy. I don't believe there's such thing as channel level strategies. I think all these people who want to claim that they're good at something, maybe they're good tactical people. They're good at using Power Editor because they know the interface. But I would say there's something more strategic than that, which is how do you drive business results?
Actually, that's true for anything, Dennis. Like the point that you mentioned, like even somebody who claims that he's an engineer, like even like hired by the top enterprise or whatever. I mean, it's not something that no one else can learn. I mean, there are plenty of books out there, engineers, what the coding language, you can learn that. It's not difficult. It's just that you have to have an affinity for that, an interest to learn that thing, and then have the time to practice it enough that you can call yourself an expert in it. So I kind of little bit disagree and agree with you. Like, there are no social media strategists in the way that they don't have a knowledge that no one else can learn or acquire. They're not born with it. It's not a talent that you can't learn over time. But again, you have to have the interest, affinity, and somewhat technical knowledge. Or again, it all boils down to interest. I would say that if you are really keen on learning that subject, no matter what, whether it's photography. I mean, photography feels like, oh, it's just a bunch of camera, but you have to know so much about lighting and aperture and all these things that really good photographers know a lot more than amateur photographers.
And so therefore, if you're good at something, If you're a good designer in digital, it's not that you know the Adobe suite. If you're good at Facebook ads, it's not that you know all the different menus and all the different targeting options.
Those are just tools. Yeah, tools can be learned. Right?
If you truly love something, you have deep expertise. If you have deep expertise, then you must truly love it. If you don't love it, your expertise isn't deep enough. They're synonymous. Therefore, and I was talking with Mari Smith about this yesterday. Follow this logic with me, because I think this is going to be the most important part of his blab. Because we can talk about random topics, but I want to talk about things that people might not have heard before. They're going to cause them to think. If you truly have expertise about something, then you have such passion and such depth that you know how to achieve a certain goal. That goal you can break down into a sequence, into a checklist of different items, right? Because any kind of passion, any content that's worth listening to will help you achieve a goal. Any goal that's sufficiently complex to achieve requires multiple steps. If you want to just drive the car across town, you have Uber. That's not a complex sequence of steps.
Yes.
If you want to get married, if you want to win a race, if you want to, succeed in your business, or whatever it is you want to do, that's a complex sequence. So deep expertise requires that you have the deeper your expertise, the more sophisticated your sequence is.
And experts are experts because they have figured out that sequence for themselves. They have kind of created their own cheat sheet, if you will, to do the same thing in a more efficient in every way. It takes less time for them. It gives better results. And so that's their cheat sheet, because they know how to do it right every single time. And again, it is a sequence of things that they do, but they have kind of formulated their own cheat sheet and their own way of doing things in a certain way that works for them. And that's why they are experts in that area.
So how do we make that useful? Yes, people who are experts, they know how to do something well. That's reflexive and recursive. That's not helpful. What's helpful is that if you know something well, you have to create a checklist around it, and you must share it openly and honestly. And what I was starting to say is what you'll hear them saying is that it's not about conversion marketing, it's about sequence marketing, right? Sequences, what's the difference between a sequence and a checklist?
Sequence follows like a 1, 2, 3. It has a sequence. You cannot go to 5 unless you have done 1. But a checklist is a random order, a random list of things that can be done out of order. That's my understanding.
A checklist requires that you complete certain items in a particular. You have to complete them so that when you finish number 2, there's a way to clearly verify if they completed number 2, so they can start number 3.
Right.
The difference between a checklist and a list of tips. 7 tips on how to get up earlier in the morning, right?
You could even follow just 1 tip and you would be good. You don't have to follow all 7 and in that particular order.
So the difference between a list of tips, like a listicle, 13 things that your girlfriend doesn't know about you, whatever.
Yeah.
8 ways to lose weight before the summer starts. The difference between a list of tips and a checklist is an ordered list that you must complete in that way, and then each of these items are verifiable.
Yep.
You've heard about things that are SMART, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-based, right? That's a checklist. A checklist allows for the consistent delivery of an execution goal. For example, French fries at McDonald's. There's a McDonald's outside this window. I'm here in London, but if you look outside, I closed the window. I closed the curtains. But I'm right here in the middle of downtown London, and after this, I'm going to go downstairs and probably eat some French fries. And because they follow an operating procedure, those French fries are going to be hot and delicious. I just know this. It doesn't matter what McDonald's you're going to, because the checklist is clear. It creates something that's called repeatable excellence. But what's the difference between a checklist and a sequence? The sequence is the journey that you lay out for your customers and your followers. They don't have to be customers. They're just people that believe in the thing that you have. The sequence is like the ride. Have you been to like Disney World or Disneyland? And it's a small world ride, right? That's a journey. That's a sequence. That's the experience that the customer gets, which is the brand power. The sum of those experiences is your brand power, right? The
Yep.
checklist is the workers behind the scenes that are making sure that, you know, the rides are working properly and that the water's flowing and the lights are turned on, that we replace the light bulbs when they're broken, right?
Yep.
So sequence and checklist, if you don't know the difference between the two, I would argue that you don't know the difference between B2B and BDC marketing. You don't know the difference between how you treat the customer versus how you deliver against what you promise the customer. So really smart marketing is about figuring out, how do we change the product, for example, or the service? Let's say you're an agency and you do social media marketing, which is what appears to be the people who are here, right?
Yeah.
You offer a product, and that's what this is. That's the journey. That's the experience they get, right? You decide what's in the product, what's not in the product. The checklist is how you deliver against that. In our case, we are doing some testing where we say, hey, we have this package where we're going to implement your setup and your plumbing, your Google Tag Manager, your Facebook ads. We're going to set up all this stuff, all these pixels, and we're going to charge $500 for it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the package. That's what they get. It could be a hamburger. It could be a car. It could be a website. It could be there's a product or service being sold. That's the sequence. There's a journey, right? There's something that these people are paying money for. The delivery of that, so that you have repeatable excellence, so it's consistently being delivered, that's your checklist. And if you change the product being offered, you must change the checklist necessary to deliver. So you have to keep, somebody, who's Mr. Green Monster? He likes that, huh? Gary Leland likes this. Wow, he's putting me like a lot. Thank you, Gary. So, and Gary knows a lot about this. He's a successful entrepreneur that's launched many, many verticals in e-commerce, because he knows that when he finds a gigantic softball the size of a pumpkin, and he knows that who's going to buy it, he can deliver that product at scale with a checklist on driving products. You know, a checklist can be like franchise stores, right? If I set up one McDonald's, how do I set up 1,000? If I can create one Tesla off the assembly line, how do I get the assembly line to consistently create these with 0 defects, right? 6 Sigma, right? And us as marketers, instead of thinking about how do I be like unique and different every time, all the time, that's impossible. What I want to do is find a way that I've done something right once, turn it into a checklist, and then let it just repeat over and over and over again, right? Then I'm not always at the mercy of trying to say something new every day. I'm going to run out of interesting things to say. And if you understand sequencing and you have the depth of knowledge as an actual customer, tomorrow I'm going to an Arsenal game, right? Soccer game, because I'm hanging out with a couple people who are well known in sports. The people who are going to do well for marketing to drive sales for this football club, which is soccer, right? They have to have such knowledge that they understand the sequence, the journey of the customer, and therefore the checklist necessary to sell tickets. If I don't know anything about the Golden State Warriors, I'm probably not going to do a very good job in helping them sell tickets, because I don't know, who the players are. I wouldn't know. Yesterday, Draymond Green made a $3.1 million donation, right, to a charity, right? I wouldn't know that, and I wouldn't be able to do marketing. I would miss that, right? That's why it's important for everyone here. I'm just looking at the list of these people that are here. A lot of agency people try to do everything. Oh, Jenny Brennan's here. I'm going to see her in a couple days. On Tuesday, I'm going to go hang out with her, right? If you do one thing really well over and over again, you have consistency against the checklist, right? And then you can market against that at scale. If you're doing something new, if you have lots of clients, if you have lots of products, if you keep coming up with new products and new things, every time that introduces risk, because it's something that's never been done before, so there's a huge opportunity of risk that it might not work. And then you wonder why marketing doesn't work. I think that no one has real data here, because no one's going to admit it, and it's very difficult to measure. But I would think that 99% of marketing campaigns fail, because people keep trying to do new things, because they want to do things out of novelty as opposed to doing things that work. I like the idea of, let's find one thing that works and let's just do it over and over and over and over again, right? Jenny ran this thing before where she created training programs for virtual assistants, so she knows a lot about virtual assistants, among many other things. She doesn't do that now, but she did before. And because she knew that, she could help. She had been in that space and gathered such depth. Then anyone who's a virtual assistant can learn how to be a good virtual assistant and learn how to do social media. because Jenny didn't try to be a social media expert to everybody and everything. That's like one of the issues I was talking with Mari Smith about when we were in San Diego a couple months ago. We sat down and had dinner, and she told me that she was keynoting at Facebook's events. Facebook's been flying Mari around at these different events, right?
Yeah.
She's on stage, she's very good. She's probably the best known Facebook marketer in the small business community, right? I think most people would agree that that's true. And I think in one of the events, if I remember correctly, after she gave her presentation, she had to sit down and talk with everybody who stood in line. I think like maybe 150, I don't know, like 150 people stood in line, and she had to spend 1 minute with each of them. Can you imagine? It's a different, it's, you know, it's somebody starting a business, it's a lawyer, it's a car mechanic. It's like can you imagine every 60 seconds another business comes in and you have to give them some amazing piece of social media
advice? Yes.
It won't work. Even if she's the Facebook marketing goddess, it won't work.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Because nobody can know everything about everyone and all topics. So that's why a lot of these people, they fail so hard in social media, because they say that they're a social media expert. Well, if they're a social media expert, then they should be able to do this for anybody, right?
Yep.
Wrong.
So what's our takeaway here, Dennis? Our takeaway is that once you are expert at something, create a checklist, and then
it forces you to do one thing. If you want a growth hack and you want to be able to multiply, you want to multiply against something that's already working. So Chick-fil-A sells chicken sandwiches. They don't make salads and lasagna and ribeye steak, right?
Yep.
And this is all about, you know, like Jack Welch, Become Number One or Out, all this kind of stuff. So focus on the one thing. It could be one client that you really like, and then get 10 more of the same kind of client. Don't do all these other random things, because whatever you do well, if you know it deeply enough, you can create a checklist. A checklist is how you execute against a sequence. A sequence is the journey of how you treat individuals as they move down this path, which is, you know, the tracks of the roller coaster, right? That's the path that they're on, or the train, if you like the train, roller coaster, whatever it is, right? And you're designing that journey. And once you have that, that is your DNA. That's your intellectual property. That's the true value that you have, and then you multiply it just like a franchise. And what I've told a lot of people here, I can see, is that your like McDonald's is a software company that happens to make hamburgers, right? Because they've packaged up that know-how, the checklists and sequences, such that they can repeat it at scale with low risk. Everybody here has experience in some particular niche. This is just another way of saying, like, you know, own some little niche. Don't try to be like everything to everybody. It's better to have 10 really, really passionate, lovely customers than 100 customers who say, you know, she's pretty good.
I worked with her. She's okay.
Yeah. You want people who are like, yeah, really, really amazing. I really like working with Jenny Brennan, right?
Yeah.
Then so package out whatever it is that causes them to want to work with you, whatever it is that you deliver, distill that down to a checklist.
Best. Yes.
And then the checklist is what you share because it's part of your content strategy, because you're sharing other people's success, and then that becomes PR. That's all the, you know, guest posting. And so
build it to create momentum and amplification.
So if you believe that's the case, if everything I've said here makes sense to you, where if you honestly believe in something, you're going to share it, it creates a checklist, it drives people in because of this word of mouth experience, then that's all summed up in something that we call CCS, which is Content Checklist Software. It's one of our 9 triangles. We have 9 key principles, and this one is the most powerful one on scaling a business, which is if your content is proof that your checklist works. So when you execute the checklist, you create content at the same time. And as you refine the checklist, because you get more experience, you then are able to automate it into software. Automate the process, which is rules for people. Automate the software, which is rules for computers. Either way, it's still rules. Checklists can be done manually, but then as you smooth them over, you can figure out ways where you can deliver it faster and better, and then you're able to lower the price. That's what Amazon does, right? That's the core of Amazon's strategy. Jeff Bezos says that only the crazy survivor knows that Craig Venter. Bezos says that he wants to constantly find ways to lower the price. Because if we don't lower the price, someone else is going to lower the price on us and make us irrelevant. So if you are smart and we're talking about growth hacking on Facebook, if you're smart, you want to figure out how you can drive more efficiency. What are those little things that when you add up the pennies, they equal $10 bills? That would be my challenge to everybody.
Pick one vertical that you think you are good at and you have hacked it. And then just target those kind of customers. So thank you, Dennis, for being with us today. This is great. Growth hacking with, targeted checklists and sequences. So this has been an awesome talk. Thanks, Dennis. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.